Es fácil conjugar y es muy necesario para hablar de situaciones hipotéticas. ¿Entienden situaciones hipotéticas? ¿Tiene sentido? Porque ahora vamos a ver una situación muy hipotética para mí. Si yo tuviera $1 millón, que es una situación hipotética porque todos nosotros sabemos que soy profesora y, bueno, gano muy poco dinero. Muy poco dinero. Gracias a Dios estoy casada y mi esposo gana más dinero que yo, pero no ganamos millones de dólares. Entonces, es una situación hipotética. ¿Qué haría yo con una cantidad grande de dinero? Es decir, ¿qué haría si ganara la lotería? Por ejemplo, no trabajaría más. Me gusta mi trabajo. Pero si tuviera $1 millón, no trabajaría más. Pero para no aburrirme, yo haría servicio voluntario, ¿no? No podría quedarme en casa todo el día, estaría muy aburrida. Entonces, haría servicio voluntario, ayudando a niños o viajando al globo, ayudando a otros países, probablemente hispanos, o a nuestra comunidad aquí hispana. También hace buen tiempo en Charleston hay muchas buenas casas con piscinas divertidas para fiestas o pasar tiempo cuando hace calor. Compraría una casa con piscina. Y también invertiría dinero en un piso, un apartamento en San Sebastián, mi ciudad más favorita del mundo. ¿Conocen San Sebastián? ¿Saben dónde está? Es preciosa, es una ciudad genial. San Sebastián es una ciudad no grande, es pequeña, está en España. Y les muestro dónde está en el mapa. ¿Qué haría con este dinero? Compartiría el dinero con toda mi familia extendida, ¿no? Toda mi familia, porque cuando una persona gana la lotería, es más o menos obligatorio compartir el dinero con amigos, ¿no? Y la familia. Eso es lo que haría con formar el condicional. Escribimos el verbo entero, el infinitivo. Es el raíz o the stem. Comprar, comprar. Invertir, invertir. We write the entire infinitive just like we did with the future. So nice. And then for the O form, we put on ia. Have we ever seen ia as an ending before? Have you ever heard ia before? Yes. You already know these endings. The conjugation is different because we're writing out the entire verb. Ia, ias, ia, iamos, iais, ian. Remember those? You've learned those before. Most of you all even remember them. They're from the imperfect tense of an ER verb. Those ia endings are the same, but we have to write out the entire verb to indicate what you would or wouldn't do, or what we would or wouldn't do. And one other thing, just like the future, AR, IR verbs, they're all the same. All the endings are the same. So you have your future tense ending, and then you have your conditional endings, but you don't need to learn two different types of endings for these verbs. So these endings, like I said, are identical, down to the accents on the I's. They're identical to our imperfect tense ER, IR verb endings. So now you're just recycling what you know and applying it to a new situation, a new context. Would. I would study if it wasn't Friday. I would run the race tomorrow if I'd trained. I would I don't know, whatever. So would run. Anybody running the bridge run tomorrow? No? Well, maybe we would run. Correríamos. We would run if we were in shape, right? Or if we were ready. Some of you all probably could run it tomorrow. It's not actually a very hard race to run. Has anybody ever run it before? It's pretty easy, don't you think? It's not that hard. The first mile is the hardest part because it's all uphill. But but you have so much energy. I mean, beginning of any race, especially, there's like hundreds of thousands of people running this race. There's a lot of energy to get up that hill. And then the rest of the way is downhill. And then when you get to the bottom of the bridge, guess who's out there cheering you on? No one could inspire you more, I feel like. It's like such a wonderful moment when you hit the bottom of the bridge and you're like, okay, now I have no gravity helping me out anymore. And there's all these people specifically at the bottom of the bridge cheering you on from the homeless shelter. Tons of homeless people are out there cheering you on. If you can run for anybody, you can run for them. And then you're in the middle of downtown, which is fun, and you're almost done with the race. It's really not that hard. Hopefully nobody's going to go out and run it now, like, oh, I decided I'm going to do it. But it's not really that hard of a run. However, we would run that race tomorrow if we were ready, but most of us probably aren't ready, and you do have to wake up really early, and that's not fun on a Saturday. Okay, so we know the conditional endings are just like those imperfect tense endings. They're not very difficult to apply because we've hopefully learned them in the past. And we're going to apply those same endings to the irregulars. And guess what? These irregulars are the same irregulars as we saw with the future. So you're going to see the same stems. But I want you to figure out what this is saying. Oh, decir, D-I-R. We learned that already. Profeseta. Yeah, that's great. We did see the same irregular stem with the future, but the context is different. I'm not saying I will say. What's diría? It's not I will say, it's I what? Would say. And this is a very, very common thing to say in Spanish in terms of conversational Spanish. Well, pues, if you're not like really sure, instead of using like, you know, an independent clause and a dependent clause applying the subjunctive, like no estoy segura que blah, blah, blah. You could just say like, yo diría que sí, yo diría que blah, blah, blah. I would say that, etc. Habría, here's another example. This doesn't have to do with chapter content. Habría menos contaminación si más personas condujeran menos. What's this saying? Habría. I've indicated it comes with the verb haber. We know from learning the future tense that haber is H-A-B-R. What is this saying? Habría menos contaminación si más personas condujeran menos. What's it saying? Habría menos contaminación. We know what contaminación is. What's contaminación? We learned it at the beginning of the semester. It's also pretty much a cognate. What's contaminación?
Pollution.
Pollution. Menos means what? Less. So, más o menos. What does haber even mean? It's only third person singular. There's no yo form. There's no nosotros form. Habría menos contaminación. What's it saying? Less contamination, less pollution if más personas? What's that saying? What's más personas? More people did what less? Drove less. So I've taken this verb. This is what we're going to talk about next week. Okay, but I'm giving you a sneak preview. So when I present it next week, you feel a little bit more comfortable with it because it is a little tricky. What infinitive does condujeran come from? Conducir. So if people drove less, this is a hypothetical situation. So I can't use just the verb conducir if they were to drive. So I have to change the grammar. This is actually the imperfect subjunctive. We'll talk about those conjugations next week. But we need those verbs to complete our hypothetical situation. So habría is saying what? There would be less contamination if more people were to drive less. Otro ejemplo. Haría más ejercicio. Haría servicio voluntario. We talked about this as hacer. So haría más ejercicio is saying what? What is haría? I would exercise more or do. You're going to see haría a lot as a question, actually. ¿Qué harías? There's even a TV show. There was a, reality, I guess, TV show called, in Spanish, if it was in Spanish, it was called ¿Qué harías? And it wasn't really a prank, but it put people who, they didn't know that the situation was hypothetical. And then they, filmed how they reacted in it. What do you think ¿Qué harías is asking? You're going to see this question a lot. What would you do? What would you do? ¿Qué harías? That's the question for a hypothetical situation. And we're going to practice that question extensively on Monday. Yo podría trabajar de casa si no fuera profesora. Podría trabajar is saying what? What is podría? Poder, which means what? To be able to. I would be able to, or I could. Could. This is how we convey could. I could work. I could sleep, or I couldn't sleep. And you can use the conditional. You can say, no podría dormir. I couldn't sleep. You can use it in the past tense. Podría is could. You can use the conditional in the past, which is crazy to think about, but you can. Si no fuera profesora. I could work from home if what? If I wasn't a professor, right, which is actually kind of ironic because I do teach 2 online classes, which does allow me to work from home. Fuera, this is what we're going to talk about next week. Fuera comes from the verb ser. Okay, pondría mi trabajo primero si no tuviera hijos. This is kind of like what we had with the future. I would what? What does pondría mean? I would put my job first. If what? I didn't have kids. Right, exactly. I did used to put my job first before I had kids, but now they're primero. If I didn't have conditional, imperfect subjunctive, we'll look at that next week. Yo quería ganar mucho dinero. Si fuera la jefe de mi departamento, quería ganar. I would what? What is quería? I would want to earn more money. Okay, y sabría hablar italiano si viviera en Italia. Sabría hablar italiano saying what? Salud. I would what? Saber. Sabría hablar italiano is saying I would know how to speak Italian. If what? If I lived in Italy. Exactly. So conditional against. Viviera. Saldría de trabajo temprano si no fuera viernes. That should be a lowercase v. Autocorrect. Saldría de trabajo is saying what? I would what? Today is Friday. And I'm working. So I would leave. Exactly. I can't leave. I have to work. Saldría. Tendría una casa en la playa. Maybe. Tendría una casa. I would what? Have a house on the beach. Vendría al trabajo is saying what? I would come. I would come. Would come. Okay, so in clase lunes, ¿qué harías por $1,000,000? We're going to do this in class on Monday. But before we conclude, ¿cómo se dice qué harías? What would you do? That is a really important question.